4 craft room organization hacks that you need to try. Grab a sugar dispenser, spice containers, and a Lazy Susan. I placed ribbon inside the sugar container and then I put the ribbon through the hole. I screwed the lid on and I did this for the other sugar container too. I used smaller ribbon, wrapped it around my fingers, and placed that inside the spice jars. I put the ribbon through one of the holes in the lid and put the lid on. I placed them all on top of a Lazy Susan, and now my ribbon is super organized. I grabbed some tin cans and containers for my recycling. I cleaned them, removed the labels, and painted them with white acrylic paint. After the paint dried, I did a second coat and I let that dry again. Then I brushed on Mod Podge and put cut up tissue paper onto the container. I evenly brushed Mod Podge over top of the tissue paper and set aside to dry. For the tuna cans, I cut a strip of napkin and placed it on top of the Mod Podge and again evenly brushed a thin coat of Mod Podge on top of the napkin. For the final jar, I cut parts of the napkin out and Mod Podged them onto the jar. I let them dry completely and then placed paint markers, pens, and other craft supplies in them. The options are endless for what you could organize in these pretty recycled containers. I grabbed a gift box from the dollar store and cut down toilet paper rolls to make them the same depth. I cut as many toilet paper rolls as I could, but I'm going to collect some more and add them later. I applied hot glue to 2 sides of the toilet paper and I attached it to the one corner of the box. For the second one, I applied the hot glue directly to the toilet paper roll in the box and to the bottom edge of the box. I added toilet paper rolls and repeated these steps. Then I poked 2 holes in the top and placed a thin rope through it to hang it. I made another 2 holes along the sides near the top and placed a wood dowel through. I put ribbon on the dowel, hung the box, and placed my acrylic paint bottles in the toilet paper slots. Now my plates are completely organized and can easily be found. I grabbed a bath suction cup and a wire cube organizer. I opened the cube package and used side cutters to cut every second wire on the second row. I used the pliers to bend them forward. I did this for 3 rows, alternating between which wires I cut. Then I used zip ties and attached the suction cup containers. I attached both squares together with zip ties on either end and hung it. I placed thread and rope on the wire hangers and organized my craft supplies. Now my craft room is super organized and ready for another season of creating.
So we're going to start with 12 of these really cute little crates from Dollar Tree, and we are going to glue them together. So we're going to start with a hot glue gun, one of my favorite tools in my DIY arsenal, and I'm going to do a significant amount, but make sure you're not doing too much to the point where it's going to like spill over. All right, so we're going to do this again 3 more times, and then we'll be back for the next step. All right, so now that I have 4 of these stacks, what we're going to do is we are going to be using some wood stain, and I'm going to be applying this with a paintbrush. You can also use a sponge if that's something you feel better about, which, you know, I might switch to a sponge. We'll see how it applies. So I'm going to start at the top. I always say less is more, because you can always go back and add more if you want to darken it up a little bit. And one of the things I like about using water-based stain is you don't necessarily have to wear gloves for it, and you also don't have to worry about a chemical smell doing it outside. You also don't have to worry about a significant amount of dry time. So and you'll want to make sure you're applying this with the wood grain. All right, so we're just going to continue moving around and covering every inch of these crates that are assembled together, and we're going to do the same thing on the others. Now I want to say too that like if you decide like you want to try this project but you want to go like with a different color, maybe you want to paint it instead of stain it, that is obviously something you can do. You know, I'm a big fan of kind of having like a rustic look, and I think you'll like how this turns out. So we're gonna work on this bamboo Lazy Susan. It's 14 inches in diameter. I got it on Amazon. It was relatively inexpensive. And we are going to stain this as well. So I'm gonna be using my sponge for this. I'm gonna use the same stain. I'm just going with the grain And I'm gonna give it a chance to sink in. I may do a couple coats on this, we'll see. I do want it to be a little darker than it started. All right, so here is my Lazy Susan now after, I wanna say like 4 or 5 coats of that rustic wood brown stain. But I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. It actually got a lot darker than I envisioned it being. So I'm gonna set this aside for now. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our next step. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna put this into a formation where we are going to be lining them up next to one another. So first I just kind of want to illustrate what it's going to look like. So if you can see where I'm going with this, essentially we're going to be gluing these all together, and it's really important that you wait for the stain to dry before you move on to the gluing step. All right, so I'm going to start by putting some hot glue along this side, and I'm going to line it up. So we're gonna let that hold for a second. And I'm gonna essentially do the same thing with these as these two as well. So, all right, so we have that together. Now what we're gonna do is I'm going to put glue here and here on these two sides. So I'm gonna have to work quick. So I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to cure essentially and dry. So for this final step, you're gonna wanna decide which side you want facing up. So because of the quality of the Dollar Tree items, if there was any glue from when these were created, the stain may not show up on those parts of the little wood crates. So I've decided this is gonna be the bottom piece that you're not gonna be able to see. So we have our Lazy Susan. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just put a ton of hot glue on the bottom here. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it over and we are gonna put it on the center of our Lazy Susan. So you may have to kind of eyeball this and then let it sit for a moment. And now what you have is a really inexpensive way to store some paint and other art supplies. So we're gonna go ahead and load this up with paint and brushes and all of that so you can see essentially how it's gonna work. So we'll be back. And here's the finished product. I'm really loving this DIY Dollar Tree craft room organizer. It definitely will be really handy. I love the fact that it is able to spin and hold so much paint and my long artist brushes. So what do you think of this project?
Grab some collapsible storage cubes from Walmart and some paint stir sticks. Measure the width of your storage cube. Using a utility knife, score the measurement line. Make these cuts on all of your paint sticks. Sand the cut ends of the sticks so there are no rough edges. Wipe some wood stain on the top and sides of each paint stick. Let them dry completely. Lay the paint sticks on the side of an open storage cube. Start to glue each stir stick to the storage cube panel with a hot glue gun.
Head on over to your local Walmart and grab their $7 mirror. Place the mirror directly in the center of the table just as you would a regular table runner. Clean off the mirror with some glass cleaner to remove any fingerprints or smudges. Then start styling your table.
Take a fabric placemat and flip it over. Using the storage cube insert, trace around the insert on the placemat. Once traced, cut the fabric square from the placemat. With a hot glue gun, glue the placemat square to the side of the open storage cube. Take some favorite yarn and make a pom-pom with a pom-pom maker. Using a large needle or upholstery needle, thread one tail of the pom-pom and insert it through the upper center of the glued placemat through the storage cube, and knot the two tails together on the inside of the storage cube.
I ran to my local Walmart and grabbed 2 matching pots, one bigger than the other. First thing I did was level an area in the front that would be in direct sunlight and put the bigger pot in first. Next I grabbed an old bucket upside down into the bigger pot. Make sure that it's centered. Next I grabbed a flower pot base. I wanted to make sure that I turned it with the lip side down. We're going to take the smaller pot that we got and place it on the center of that pot. I want to grab some local rocks and place them around the edge. Next I got out a new solar powered fountain that that I bought for $10. It floats in the water because it's got a float on the bottom, and it works great in direct sunlight. With this fountain comes some plastic spacers. What this does is make sure that the fountain stays in the center of the pot. Once you got it marked, you can go ahead and just trim it with a pair of scissors. Put some nice clear water inside. Go ahead and place the fountain inside. Once the direct sunlight hits it, voila! Let's run on down to Walmart, and it's time to grab your favorite inexpensive bucket. We got to get those handles off. Next, we're going to take that bucket and flip it over. We need to set in 2 strips of wood that are going to fit right on the edge. Next, stick them on there, make sure they fit. Then you can use some hot glue. Just flip it over and press it against the plastic. So do that to both pieces right on the edge, and just hold it down till it sets. Next, flip the bucket over, and what you're going to do is grab just some small little screws. So just take your drill and put it right in. 2 or 3 in each strip of wood will be just right, and that's going to hold it in place. Now it's time to put on the wheels, and we're going to mark it 1 inch from each side of the wood. We're going to put 4 of these legs on, and we're going to drill it. Now it's time to take that hot glue, put it right on the edge of the hole there, and put the leg on. Look at this. They are excellent. Now it's time to go ahead and decorate the bucket. Just take again our favorite hot glue, put it right on the edge, just stick it right on there. Just go ahead and set it all the way around, and we're going to go around the whole bucket. Once you get that on, it's time to take a little bit of your inexpensive fabric, cut about 12 inches wide. We're going to use that hot glue again, and we're going to fold over the edge. What we're going to do is fold it over the bucket. It's going to cover all that plastic. Get that glue right on that last bit of rope right there. We're going to take this all the way around the bucket.
You want to pick up 2 bowls. Make sure they are ceramic or glass and that they are heat proof. I took them home and I'm going to give them a coat of spray paint. Once the paint is dry, these bowls have a really nice textured look. I'm just going to use some really strong glue to adhere them together. In the top bowl, I am going to add 3 wicks. I'm just going to use a little bit of hot glue to secure them to the bottom. Then I'm going to grab 2 wooden skewers and wrap the wick around the skewers. This is just going to hold everything in place. Great way to make your own candles is to reuse existing candle wax. I have a couple of these Dollar Tree tall pillar candles, and I'm going to place them in some boiling water. Now make sure you're wearing gloves. These can get really hot, and I'm just going to gently boil this until all the wax is melted. Pour the wax from all the candles into a metal container with a handle. I'm opting to add a little essential oil for some scent, and now we're just going to pour that melted wax. Then you're going to want to walk away for about 24 hours. When it is completely set, you can trim the wicks down and use your candle. Let's create an anthropology dupe. So I'm gonna grab a couple different styles of this pretty paper and I'm gonna cut it into 4-inch squares. Now I'm gonna paint a thin coat of Mod Podge onto a white ceramic tile. Now I'm gonna press these 2 together, seal them in really good, get any bubbles out. Now I'm gonna come back and add a top coat of Mod Podge. I'm gonna repeat this with about 35 tiles. I cut a piece of plywood to size and I'm gonna paint the top using a white chalk paint. Now I'm gonna place a full-length mirror right in the middle. Now to attach the mirror to the wood, I'm using Gorilla Glue. Once I've got the mirror down, I'm adding this board and some weight, and I'm gonna let this set for 24 hours. Now I'm gonna dry fit the tiles into a pattern around the mirror. For the corners, where I have a little bit of a smaller space, I'm actually just gonna use a square of paper. So the first thing I'm doing is adding a little bit of water to the wood with a paintbrush. Now for the tiles, I'm using Gorilla Glue again, and then the 2 are pressed together. And I'm gonna let the whole thing set for 24 hours. Grab a plastic bin from Walmart for this project. I'm going to start by drilling a few holes into the side of the bin. This is going to be for handles down the road. Then I'm going to flip the bin over and I'm going to drill 4 holes, 1 in each corner of the plastic bin. I want to dress this bin up, so I picked up some gray and white patterned fabric. And I've cut it down to size so that it is the right height of the bin. Now I'm going to use some spray adhesive to adhere the fabric to the plastic. When I get to the corners, I am going to cut up the side, and then I can just fold these 2 pieces over each other, creating a really nice looking seam. To add the handles, I'm going to locate the hole that I drilled with my finger and then just poke through the fabric with a pair of scissors. Now I can thread the jute through and tie a knot on the inside to secure it in place. Now I'm going to add some feet to the bottom to raise this up off the ground and just make it look a little nicer.
Grab some hot glue and put a bead of glue along one side of your lampshade, and then add some twine or jute. And we're going to wrap that around the lampshade until we cover the entire thing. After you have all your tassels made, we are going to add these to the bottom of our lampshade. And I decided to hot glue these. You could use a needle and thread and tie them and sew them on the edge, but this worked out perfect. You are going to simply trim off the excess tails.
Get a styrofoam cooler. I found mine at Walmart. Take a piece of cardboard, trace with a Sharpie, and cut with an X-Acto blade to make it slightly smaller than the lid of the cooler. Take a piece of upholstery foam and trace with a Sharpie and cut with an X-Acto blade. Hot glue the upholstery foam to the top of the lid with the cardboard on top of that. Take a blanket, rug, or textile of your choice and cut it to size to the top of the lid. Fold and hot glue to the lid and trim the excess. Use an old sheet, cut to size, and wrap around the cooler base. Hot glue all the way around the base of the cooler and trim off the excess. Cut the remainder of the blanket, fold over, and hot glue the edges to clean them up. Wrap the blanket pieces around the base with hot glue. Add tassels from the blanket around the top of the base of the cooler to give it a boho look.
I went to the store and grabbed some hula hoops along with black matte spray paint. I took the hoops out to my garden and decided to attach them to my house using small poultry staples. I then slipped a piece of pipe cleaner through the hole and attached the hoop, twisting the ends together. I used black electrical tape to join the hoops together. To attach the plant, I carefully moved each stem, bundling some together and following the curve of the hoop.
I'm decorating my yard for free. I grabbed a bundt pan from the baking drawer. I just need to fill it up with tap water. I'm using some cake pans and a small pot. I also grabbed some doilies. I also want to slip a piece of twine into the doily. I've grabbed some food dye and I'm going to put a few drops of red and blue into the balloons. I've taken them all out to the porch and I'm going to leave them there for a few days. To remove the ice from the pans, I just turn them upside down in the sink like this and run a little water on the pan. For the ice balls, I need to remove the balloons. I like to keep these clear pieces to decorate with lights.
You'll need some empty, used cans. Now that we have the water and ice inside of them, we're gonna go ahead and place them into the freezer until they're frozen solid.
And next we're gonna pick a design, and then you can just start tapping what you want your design to be. So the first thing I have here is a punch and a hammer. You could also use a nail, but you're just gonna basically give it a little tap to create an indent. So for this next step, I'll be using a drill. Now I just place the drill into the can, and I will continue doing this to all of the holes. Now the cans are empty, the ice is out. And take them outside and spray paint them. Now that the paint's dry, I'm gonna focus on the center part of the heart.
Start by breaking apart some pillar wax and add it to a pan to melt. After that, melt the mixture. A double boiler is ideal, but if you don't have one, you can use a baking tin or metal bowl on top of a pot with water. Next, grab some crayons and choose colors. Take off the paper and add them to the wax. After that, melt the mixture. Then, grab a recycled carton and unfold it. Cut 2 slits on either side of the top. Wrap the wick around a straw or chopstick to keep it in place. Then, grab some ice. Begin adding ice to the carton mold. Then, pour the wax over the ice and allow it to cool. Repeat this process in all different colors. After they have cooled, grab a towel and carefully cut and rip away the carton.
grabbed 1 basket and 10 of these wooden pieces. I set to work staining them using these easy staining cloths. Once they were dry, I set up 2 of the wooden pieces vertically, and then I added the rest of my wooden pieces horizontally. Used some 1-inch nails and put those in place. I had purchased these 4-inch house numbers. I nailed these into place. The next thing I did to finish it up was to add some pretty flowers.
Pick up 2 matching plastic pots from Dollar Tree. Drill holes into the bottom of each for drainage. Then use some hot glue to glue them together. Pick up some of this rope. Use it with hot glue and coil it around. I'm choosing to create an oval. You could also create a circle depending on the space. I used 7 coils of jute. Grab the tumbling tower game from the toy section. You can leave these as is. I chose to add a light stain to mine. I'm creating a flat base with 4 of the blocks. Glue them together with wood glue so they really hold up. Then I'm going to add legs to the outside. I've created a couple different heights with the legs. Grab a Dollar Tree solar light and one of those tall glass vases. Put the base of the solar light into the vase and then fill around it with some decorative stones. Remove the top of a solar light and wrap some floral wire around it to create a swing. Place this inside a paper lantern. Grab a few small clay pots, place a solar light into the middle, and fill around it with stones to hold it in place. Grab a larger planter, place a few solar lights in it, and then fill around it with rocks.
I had a very old and large flower pot, so I started with some Rust-Oleum spray paint in the color cement. Decided to add a gingham ribbon. Now these flower pots are really large, and it takes a lot of soil sometimes to fill these up. Grab some pool noodles. Cut the pool noodles into small sections. Place all of these sections into the flower pot, and it takes a little bit of arranging to get them into the flower pot the way you want them to look. You could stop here, or I'm going to add a pizza pan to the top of the pool noodles. The water will be able to drain around the outside edge. I add some soil to the top of the pizza pan, and then it's time to plant my flowers.
I'm gonna grab me some solar lights. Next, head over to the hardware store. I'm gonna grab me about 100 feet of nylon rope. First thing I gotta do is blow up this dollar beach ball. Then I gotta get out some Portland cement. Make sure it's not concrete, but cement. You want it actually really thin because we need to coat that rope. Now, on that beach ball, just start laying that rope. You're just gonna start roping it all the way around. Once you get to the end, what you're gonna do is tuck that last bit in underneath the rope. It's gonna hold it in place. Then what we can do is move on to possibly adding a little bit more cement. Make sure you cover all that rope. We want it to stiffen up as best we can. Let it sit for a couple hours once we get it covered. Once it's covered, take a knife and just puncture the beach ball. Once we get it all the air out, just go ahead and pull it through one of the bigger openings between the ropes. Now, I want to clean it up. Took a little bit of a plastic fork and just clean up the edges. Don't want anything flaking off. Take a squirt bottle and start squirting all the string, and you're just going to powder it with the cement. Just keep doing that all over. What this does is make it thicker and strengthen it up. We're going to grab that dollar light again. Take out the bottom part. You're going to turn it around, put it in, and that's what's going to stick into the ground. Go ahead and put it right into the ground, right in the area you want to put it. And then you're going to take your string orb and you're going to put it right over the light, right in the middle, and lay it on down.
I have got these melamine plastic plates I just picked up at the dollar store. I've also got a couple of these larger silver coloured plates. That's isopropyl alcohol. I've just cleaned the plate with that. I'm going to take a little bit of alcohol here. I'm just going to squirt it onto the plate. And then I've got these really lovely, I'm going to drop a little bit on here. I'm just going to move this around a bit to start with. Alcohol on there. There we go. Here we go. A little bit more of that. You can use a hairdryer or a heat gun. I'm just going to go around and around in circles and just see if we can get some nice kind of edges. Okay, now because this is alcohol ink, I'm actually going to seal it with this Kmart varnish. The second version that I'm going to do on these little plates is I'm actually going to use these stick and style stencils. This I've already coated with a second coat of paint. Okay, let's take this stencil off and see how it looks. Our third technique that we're going to create on these plates is going to be, we're going to go full Jackson Pollock. Next up, we're going to use this silver bullet, exactly the same. We can do that on one of our smaller plates.
So I picked up a couple of these dollar store solar lights and I'm gonna take them apart. I just need that kind of crystal plastic part and the top. So I'm gonna cover the light bulb on the bottom and then I'm gonna cover the solar panel on top. And then use a craft knife to cut around it so you get perfectly straight lines. This is a 7-inch basic embroidery hoop. So I'm gonna untwist this screw and put that aside. I'm taking them outside and I am adding a couple coats of a matte black spray paint. Make sure they're fully dry to the touch, and now we can assemble. So first we wanna remove the painter's tape so that these solar lights work. On the clear plastic part, there are 2 little clips that help attach it to the top. And I'm just gonna take some floral wire and wrap it around each one of those clips. Wrap it nice and tight so it hugs the plastic closely, and then I'm able to screw the black part back on top, and the wire is still going to hang out either side. I picked this chain up at the craft store. It is actually in the jewelry section. I'm going to thread the chain through the screw and tighten it about halfway. The solar light is going to hang from the inside hoop. So I'm just going to use my floral wire and wrap it around that hoop. Now I can put this middle hoop, the smaller hoop, back inside the larger one. Now once everything's in place, I can tighten this screw.
I have this area in the front of my house that I want to beautify, so I grabbed a bowl from the Dollar Tree and put it over to make sure it fits. Then I went to Home Depot and grabbed some spray foam. Next, what I'm going to do is put the bowl down on a garbage bag, and I'm going to grab the spray foam and start covering all the bowl up. And we're going to go layer over layer. Now, this took about 3 cans, but I want to make sure before I put the next layer on, that's a little bit dry to the touch. Once you get it on, you want to give it about 24 hours. The next step is we've got to carve the foam. Now, you're going to shape this all over. Next step, I'm going to pour some water into a bucket. I'm using Cementol. What we're going to do is mix it. You want to be able to shape it and use it almost like a clay on top of the foam. Go ahead and just start adding it to the foam and just keep smoothing it on. For the second layer, I made it a little more runny. Just go ahead and smooth it in. If it looks a little rough, you can grab a chip brush, dip it in some water, and then you can start smoothing out the concrete that you put on. Now let it dry, and then I took some black paint, watered it down, and I'm going to add a little bit of color to the rock. So I'm going to add some brown to it also. You can go with any color you want. Now I'm ready to cover up the pipe that I want to have hidden. Headed down to a local Dollar Tree. I'll grab some rope, some clear bottles, and some cool little lights. Just take the hook off the top of the light. Next, we're going to take the bulb off. Next, we need to take the actual light mechanism and pop it out. What we need to do is paint this cover. Now on the bottle, we have a cork here. We can go ahead and just remove that. Next, I grabbed off of Amazon a bottle cutter. Put the bottle on the rollers, and you go ahead and start turning it. What you want to do is hear this noise. That means you're cutting right through the bottle, but it won't cut all the way through. I'm going to show you a little cut line on there. Stick the bottle in the boiling water for a good 30 seconds. Once you got it in there and it's heated up, immediately go ahead and put it in the icy cold water. It's going to separate along the score line, and look at that. Perfect. Takes off the bottom and you've got a nice flat smooth line. Put the lights back through our painted cover and clip it back on. Take some E6000 glue and place it around the edge. Take some hot glue and put it in the areas I didn't put the E6000 on. That's going to hold the cover in place while the glue is dry. We're going to stick the lights inside the bottle, set the cover on top. Then we're going to take that rope, stick some hot glue on the neck of the bottle, let that hold, and then we're going to start wrapping it all the way around the neck. And then take this extra twine, we're going to put it through the hook. I made 3 of these and we put them up.
Grab some Hershey Kisses, punch or cut a heart out of colorful cardstock, and use some hot glue to glue it in between the bases of 2 kisses. Then using hot glue, add a little bead for the nose and 2 googly eyes to 1 Hershey Kiss. On the bottom of the other Hershey Kiss, attach a little piece of twine for the tail.
I'm going to start with a brick of fluorofoam, and as you can see, I added a very generous amount of hot glue. Now I'm going to work in our first flower greenery combos. Now we have some of these hot pink geraniums. Now we're going to work in these really pretty velvet heart sprays.
Grab some red suckers and cut a small piece of green crepe paper and add a little glue from a glue stick. Then wrap the crepe paper around the stem of each sucker. Grab a piece of green cardstock and cut a leaf shape. Then use a green pencil to add some veining and embellishments to the leaves. Use a little hot glue to glue the 2 leaves together and glue the stems of the 2 suckers together. Attach the leaves to the stems
I've pre-soaked 1 brick of fresh floral foam. We're gonna just take that and wedge it in. Now begins the fun part, and that is going to be carving your foam into kind of a conical or triangular shape. Right here we have some mini carnations, so I'm just gonna snip off the top and start placing them. So the biggest ones are sticking out the furthest, and then as we kind of approach the top, we are gradually getting smaller so that we kind of create that conical topiary shape. So to create the very peak of our topiary, we're gonna take a carnation, place it sticking straight out, and then we can begin filling in. So I placed a few more pieces to fill in any of the holes where you still see the foam.
Grab some fun packs of Skittles, start with a clothespin, and add some washi tape to one side. Then trim down a fuzzy stick and curl it into antenna. Use some hot glue to attach the fuzzy stick antenna to the top of the clothespin. And a little more hot glue to add 2 googly eyes. And squeeze in that bag of Skittles.
Stuff a flower in a balloon with a chopstick. Fill the balloon with water and tie it off. Repeat that process and pop them in the freezer. Once frozen, remove the balloon.
Grab some Tootsie Pops. Using hot glue, attach the smaller of the hearts in a circle around the Tootsie Pop. Then use the larger hearts to create another row. Add as many rows as you like, and you're gonna have this adorable looking flower.
I grabbed this towel rod for the best kitchen hack. I put one end of the towel rack on and marked where the other side of the towel rack needed to be. For this side, I used drywall anchors to ensure a strong hold. Then I grabbed some black shower curtain rings, placed them on the towel rack, and hung my favorite cutting boards and frying pan.
I picked up these containers at Dollar Tree. They can be found in the travel section. The first thing I'm going to do is use some nice and strong super glue or E6000 and attach the magnets to the bottom of each one of the containers. While that's drying, I'm going to upcycle an old picture frame. On the back of this frame, I am going to add some magnets. Now I'm going to use these glittery black stickers I found just to put the word spices on the bottom of the frame. So I'm using a Sharpie to write the name of spices that I use most often right on top. Now it's time to fill up the jars. I'm going to put up the frame first where I want it, and then I can just stick the jars right on the fridge inside the frame.
Today's project starts with a few end tables that you can pick up from your local Walmart or IKEA, and they're simple to put together. Put a wheel on the bottom to make this table mobile. Get a nut that will fit on the end of those threads, and we've got to glue it to the bottom of the leg. But we want to make sure we add a washer to give it some strength, because we're going to use a 2-part epoxy. We're going to take the epoxy and put it around the edge of the bolt next to the washer, and on the bottom of our table, turn it on its side, and we've got to glue a piece of strip of wood on the bottom. Go ahead and just put some around the hole on the bottom of the leg, and we're going to take that little invention we did with the washer and the nut and stick it right on there. Make sure it gets nice and secure. That allows us now to screw the wheel into the bottom of the leg. Gotta join these 2 tables together. Once you get it all on there on all 4 corners, go ahead and stick the other table right on top. Once it dries up in about 20 minutes, it's super strong and it's time to paint it. Went ahead and put these 3 boards in for the base, and they sit there really nice. It also gives some strength, but it's time to finish the top. I want to use some contact paper.
On our countertop, grab a curtain rod and 2 heavy-duty command hooks. Measure the placement for the 2 command hooks and hang the rod at your desired height. Arrange everyday items like K-cups, mugs, pictures, or plants using S-hooks on the rod.
Are you tired of those overcrowded cabinets? Grab you 2 cake pans from Dollar Tree and a bag of marbles. Take one of those other cake pans, put it on top, and look at it spin. It's perfect for organizing spices, salts, and peppers.
You want to make sure that you have a nice clean surface. Rubbing alcohol is a good option. You'll need some sort of stencil and line that up and then just press down firmly. And it's really important here that you maintain the best seal possible. You'll want to take some painter's tape and put it around the surrounding edges. Now that you have your stencil in place, it's time to apply the etching cream. I typically do about a 5-minute time to allow it to sit, and then we'll rinse it off.
Run it under a stream of warm water and just allow the cream to gently rinse off.
Once you have the etching cream all rinsed off, you can go ahead and remove the stencil and the tape. But we're going to take it one step further, and I'm going to be using this Rub and Buff product to add some color to it.
How about underneath the kitchen sink? There is nothing worse than trying to get a bag to reline the trash can. What a mess. Grab a curtain rod, grab the garbage bag, mark it, cut it right there at the mark. Put the ends back on to keep it safe, put the brackets on, and look at that.
Let's start organizing inside your cabinets. Press this onto the cabinet door in this case and hold for 10 seconds. Now, your oven mitts, folders, and silicone mats are ready to be stored. If you ever change your mind, you can easily remove the hanger simply by pushing up and taking it off. I chose to replace the first hanger with this metal hook. I replaced the oven mitts with a cooling rack and a pan guard that fit just as perfect in this spot. Are you always losing your measuring utensils? Simply place a clear command hook on the outside of an airtight container, and you'll always have your measuring utensils right at hand. I use mine for baking supplies. Simply take a large command hook and press it all the way to the left of the cabinet door. Then take your paper towel and measure to size. Firmly press down on the command hook, securing it to the opposite side of the cabinet door. Take a piece of string and run it through the middle of the paper towel holder and simply hang it on your 2 new command hooks. It's as easy as that. Already have a place to store your paper towels? Simply take off the paper towel roll from your 2 command hooks and replace it with a plastic shopping bag. Here's a simple storage solution for all your recyclable bags. If you didn't already know, the little tabs on the side of your saran wrap or tinfoil are meant to be pressed in to lock the roll in place. Using a command hook, simply stick the prong through the hole and press it firmly on your surface. I chose the side of my refrigerator.
To start, you'll need 3 Parsons end tables, and I purchased mine at Walmart. I put 2 of the tables together. It was really easy, all you had to do was screw in the legs. For the 3rd table, I didn't use the legs, and I drilled the holes just a little bit bigger so I could fit rolling wheels in them. Use some E6000 or glue of your choice, and put it on the bottom of the legs on 2 of your tables. Stack your tables on top of the tabletop with the wheels.
Are you looking for a cool, simple design for those knives to hang on? Take a strip of oak and some magnets, and we're going to use what's called a Forstner bit. Make sure it's deep enough for the magnets to sit in, but no deeper than that. Take some of that wood glue and place it all over the oak. We're going to glue a second strip. Use some clamps to hold it down. We're going to let that dry for a little bit. Are you a little unnerd when it comes time for snack time? Always trying to go through the bin, trying to find a solution? Take a shoe hanger and we're going to put it on the back of a pantry door or a cabinet. All you need is some simple hooks. You can then take the shoe holder and put it up, and it holds your snacks easy to get to.
When I came across this labeling hack, I just had to share it. Type out names for labels that will keep you organized. Print out your label list on plain, ordinary white paper. Cut the words apart, leaving a little bit of white space surrounding the text. Now, take some clear packing tape and lay pieces of tape over each word. It helps if you put a coin on the end of the tape so you can lift it easily later on. With the edge of a debit or credit card, press against the taped word and rub vigorously across the top of the tape. Trim off any excess tape with scissors, then simply drop it in a bowl of water. Make sure it is completely submerged and let it soak for a couple of minutes. Once it has soaked for a bit, lift it from the water and start to rub across the back of the word with your fingers. The paper pulp will eventually come off from the tape, but the text will still be there.
Take an X-Acto knife and remove the lid flaps. Take hemp rope and a hot glue gun to begin wrapping the rope around the box. Take twine and begin gluing it to the perimeter of the bottom of the box. Take balsa wood oval or circle shapes and paint them with black paint. Print words to be displayed on the side of the box. Cut them out and use pencil to cover the back of the paper. Then trace the font on the balsa wood. Use a chalkboard pen or a white paint pen to cover the pencil traced font. Use a hot glue gun to attach the labels to the side of the box.
I started by planting 2 mini pine trees on each side of the window box. Then I placed some cedar and pine sprigs all around the center of the box. I also added in a cedar garland and laid it all around the window box to fill it in more. Once I was happy with the placement of all the greenery, I decided to add in some gold picks. After placing all the picks around the window box, I added in some Christmas lights to give it some extra sparkle at night.
I'm just going to take this and drape it over my chandelier. I picked up this fabric at a local fabric store on clearance. I'm just gonna kind of zhuzh across the middle of the table there. I picked up on Amazon some fun little mirror ball dollar store silver chargers and white dinner plates. I have these pretty silver salad plates, and then I'm gonna top those with a pretty little appetizer plate. I bought at Michael's these little silver beads, so we're just gonna sprinkle those on the table. Plain, clear wine glasses. Added a little silver metallic bow instead of a more formal napkin ring. And we're down to flatware for the table. Now, if you're familiar with these little lights, battery operated lights, that's how I'm going to finish our table. But I'm just going to tuck that right among our garland.
Grab some pine cones, place some rocks in a planter, add in some greenery, place the pine cones on top, hot glue together to make them higher, add in some fairy lights.
Head to your local salvage, vintage, or thrift store and pick up some white glass globes and thoroughly clean the outside. Crack open a bottle of decoupage glue and thickly brush the glue all over the glass globe. Hold the glass globe over a large bowl and sprinkle ground glass glitter over the entire globe. Gently press and pat the glass glitter onto the decoupaged globe and then shake off the excess into the bowl. You will want to spray the globe with a clear spray adhesive. Take a string of twinkle lights and stuff them inside the glass globe.
Thank you.